welcome to the session on Decoding African Continent's Free Trade Area. And I would like to welcome our special guest for this session, Mr. ODAH Williams of OGBODO. To give a brief introduction, Mr. ODAH is the Director for Strategy and Business Development of Marvin Williams Services Limited. He was the head of membership department at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And he was also the head of business development at Augusto & Co., the pioneer rating agency in Nigeria. He was one of the business origination directors for Hong Kong-based East Century Capital in Nigeria, and he also serves on the board of Steadfast Love Foundation and NGO as the director. Mr. ODAH at various times has worked with Skip Nigeria & Co. Limited, and he has had stints with Amsco Telecoms, African Alliance Insurance Co. Limited, and the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mr. ODAH facilitates in trainings and leads strategy sessions for organizations, and his area of specialties are sales, marketing, and business development, leadership, strategy, and entrepreneurship, and comes with more than 20 years of experience in these domains. Mr. ODAH is also vast in international trade facilitations and fundraising. And he's a serial entrepreneur and having owned and successfully managed different businesses over the years. He's also an engaging and a compelling speaker. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. ODAH.
You're welcome.
Yes, and over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with the audience on a particular session of the team, for this particular conference, which is Decoding After. I will be speaking specifically, on the future of after. If the slides are ready, I think I can just go straight into speaking to the slides as it were. I will be speaking on the future of business in after. And like I said, the first thing is to understand what is after. After is African free trade area, that was put together when the government of African countries came together in 2018, to create, a common trade area, for the entire continent, through which, there can be increase in intra-African trade, on the continent. This decision was made in 2018, and after was supposed to commence, in 2021, January 1st, which is this particular year. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next slide. Okay, so like I did say, talking about how it all started in 2018, we talked about that. Let's go to the next slide. Let's talk to the next slide. Thank you. So after put together in 2018, commenced 1st January this particular year, 2021. So what are the objectives, of after? The objective of after is to lay a foundation for Continental Customs Union. That's one of the major objective of after. Secondly, to create a single and liberalized market for goods and services in Africa. The third is to aid free movement of persons, capital, goods and services in Africa. The fourth is to facilitate external investment. That's what we call FDI, direct investment, into the continent. Then promote and attain sustainable socio-economic development, around the continent, boosting industrial development through diversification and regional value chain. In addition to enhancing competitiveness, of African countries within the continent and globally, and the last but not the least, to escalate regional and continental integration. Currently, as it were, the level of trade among African countries, is very, very low. The level of intra-relationship also too, economically also too, is very, very low. So generally speaking, or broadly speaking, AFTA have the broad objective, to see how, it can stimulate greater economic interactions, among African countries, and thereby reap the benefit that we're going to see subsequently. Thank you. Let's have the next slide. So let's talking about AFTA, which is the African Continental Free Trade Area, which arose out of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was made in 2018. So this slide talks about the market size. What is the market size, of the African Continental Free Trade Area? So first and foremost, I want to look at it from the gross domestic point of view. So after that has kicked off 1st January 2021, has a combined gross domestic product, of 3.4 trillion US dollar. That's the size of the market, of the AFTA market that we are currently, looking at. In terms of population, we are looking at a population size of about 1.3 billion people, across the continent of Africa, with respect to the market size of AFTA. Let's look at the next slide. So all this I'm just doing is I'm trying to lay a background, before I delve into the issue of the future of AFTA. And that's why I first of all gave a definition of AFTA. I also listed out the objective, of AFTA as it were as well too. And also we looked at the market size of AFTA, which is also quite critical to our discourse. So what is the expected outcome for Africa? According to the UN Economic Commission for Africa, a major outcome of the AFTA implementation is that it's going to increase intra-Africa trade by over 50%, which is quite significant. As I earlier mentioned, presently, before AFTA, not presently, pre-AFTA, the level of trade, intra-African trade among African nations, was very, very low. So with the coming on board, of the African Continental Free Trade Area, arising out of the agreement, is going to stimulate greater economic interaction, among African countries. So this is a major outcome, of this very economic policy put together for the African continent. We'll look at the next slide. On the next slide, we are going to see, so what is the outcome, for the global community? AFTA is not just about the African continent. We live in a globalized world as it were today, and the African continent, cannot afford to play in silo. They cannot afford to just play solo, just within the continent. So AFTA as a policy, also have a very robust outcome as well too for the global economy. It has a very robust outcome as well too, for the entire globe. So what is this outcome? The World Bank postulated, that arising from the implementation of the AFTA, that this implementation is going to add about 76 billion US dollar to the rest of the world. These are benefits that are going to be derived, from the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, to other parts of the globe, in terms of, economic benefits that is going to accrue to other parts, of the world. We're going to look at this in much detail, as we go to subsequent slides. Let's just take a look at it. Yeah. So now we are now going to deal with my subject properly for today, which is the future of AFTA. As the continent commence implementation of this very laudable policy. So what is going to be the future? How is the future going to pan out, with the implementation of this very critical, this very important policy? So first and foremost, I said that there will be more opportunities, in the following sectors, both for Africans and non-Africans. This opportunity is not just limited, to Africans alone, who are in the African Continental Free Trade Area. Is opportunity for the entire globe. Is an opportunity for business people around the entire world. So what are some of these opportunities? Part of the objective of AFTA is also to encourage, intra-African movement, free intra-African movement, free movement of goods and services, across sovereign borders as well too, from one country to the other, encouraging, greater trade, activity, in the continent. So arising from this, we see that as a result of the implementation of the AFTA policy, there's going to be massive opportunity in transportation. Currently, the level of flight within the continent is very low compared to the level of flight, out of the continent. You have more flights, traveling to Europe, to America and to Asia than flights within the African continent. But as a result of this policy, which is currently, which implementation have started January 1st of this particular year, as a result of the implementation, we are likely to see more activity, in the transport space. As a result of that, there's going to be more opportunity for investors, to invest in transportation in Africa, airline businesses, transport, in terms of rail transport, in terms of road transport. So as a result of the AFTA policy, we're going to be seeing massive opportunity in the transport sector, on the continent. And this opportunity is open both to Africans, and friends of Africans. Is open to investors globally. Like we already saw, the UN Commission for Africa projected that there will be 50% increase in inter-African trade, and in addition to that, also to the World Bank projected that it's going to be about 76 billion US dollar added to the global economy by reason of the implementation of the AFTA policy. Similarly, travel-related services also is going to receive a huge boost. So anybody positioning to play in Africa, can position to play in any of these sectors. There will be opportunity in freight and logistics as well too, as there are movements of goods and services across nations, across borders, generally. We're likely to also see that there will be massive opportunity as well too in payment solutions. Opportunity, to be able to make payments, across borders, from West Africa to Central Africa, from Central Africa to Eastern Africa, from Eastern Africa to Southern Africa. So we're going to be seeing, we expect to see solutions, in the area of payments, because increased transactions, cross-border transactions, we call for continental payment solutions. These are opportunities open to Africans and friends of Africans. These are opportunities open to investors, in the global community. By reason of increased trade also too, we hope also to see more opportunity in the ICT area, ICT sector, information communication technology arising from trade. There will be greater need to communicate, within and across, the continent. So there's lots of opportunities that will be locked on in the ICT segment, for business people to take advantage of, as this country, as the policy, goes full stream. In addition to that as well too, we're going to be looking at the challenges later on, but those challenges also too provide opportunities. There are currently, a huge infrastructural deficit, in Africa, on the continent. So this infrastructural deficit provides opportunity, for development of this infrastructure across the length and breadth, of the continent. So there's going to be a huge, opportunity for investors in this sector, in terms of road construction, in terms of rail transport, in terms of airport construction, seaport, and a whole lot more. We also hope to see greater opportunities as well too in PPP, triple P, that is public, private, public partnership opportunities, across the length and breadth of Africa, which investors, and business people, can take advantage of. So this is the part one in my presentation of the future of business, in AFTA. We expect AFTA, to draw up all of these opportunities, for both Africans and non-Africans, friends of Africans to take advantage of, to be able to achieve the set objectives of this very important policy. Let's get the next slide. as we look at the second part in my presentation on the future of business, in NAFTA. So, for this policy to succeed, one of the objectives is to create, a common custom union for the entire continent, where we are going to see barrier to trades falling, where we expect to see reduction, and maybe elimination of trade barriers, like tariffs, to goods and services across border. So this is the future of business, in AFTA, on the continent of Africa. We expect to see more people moving across the continent, striking one deal or the other, or deals, across the length and breadth of the continent. Secondly, also too, we expect to see greater movement of people, goods and services, across the continent. And that's why I did say that, that the future of business in AFTA is that's going to throw up robust opportunity, for business people to take advantage of, opportunities, in logistics and freight, in transportation, and a whole lot of other areas as well too. The last but not the least, on this very slide, is that the future of business in AFTA, is that there's going to be greater creation of wealth on the continent. By the reason of the implementation of this very laudable policy, we expect to see, more wealth created on the continent, of Africa. We expect to see more billionaires, from the north to the west, the south to the east and central part of Africa. Let's look at the last part of, this very future of business in AFTA. The next slide, please. Thank you. So the future of business in AFTA, is that for businesses across the length and breadth of Africa, and even in Asia, in Europe, in the United Kingdom, in North America, is that no nation is an island, no continent is an island. So we expect to see greater interaction, between Africans, and friends of Africans across the globe. So the future of business in AFTA is that we expect to see greater cross-border synergy and collaboration. We expect to see more joint venture partnership, in Africa, and between Africans and non-Africans. In addition to that, also too, we expect to see increased global capital inflow, into the continent, for infrastructural development. So that is the future, of business in AFTA. We expect to see investors come to invest, in Africa. The next frontier for wealth creation globally, mark my point, is Africa. There's lots of money to be made in Africa, and from Africa by prudent and very smart investors. And I want to use the opportunity, to invite friends of Africa, global business persons, to look towards Africa and take advantage of this robust opportunity that is going to yield, dividend, to people that will take advantage of this policy and invest, on the continent. The next point also too is that we are going to see increased use of technology, in the business ecosystem on the continent and in Africa. Business technology is an enabler. So with AFTA in place, we expect to see, a lot of technological, push, on the continent. And one major area we expect this push, is in the area of payment solutions, which is very critical, for for seamless transactions to take place across the length and breadth of the continent. Then also too, we're going to see stiffer competitions among nations. We're going to see stiffer competitions also too among regions as well too. We're also going to see stiffer competitions among the international community, for businesses wanting to play, on the African turf as well too. So the future of business also too is that people coming to play, should get ready, to play, because there's going to be stiff competition as, businesses head towards Africa to take advantage, of emerging opportunities. The future of business also too is that we expect to see, as a result of the implementation of this very policy, improve quality of processes, business processes in Africa. We also expect to see as well too, improve quality, in processing and production of goods and services on the continent of Africa. These are part of what we expect to be the future of businesses, in Africa. Can we look at the next slides? So as I wrap up this presentation, decoding after, decoding the implementation of after, and looking specifically at the future of after, there are some expected challenges as this policy is being implemented. What are some of these expected challenges? Presently, like I said, in Africa, there is a lack of modern and efficient infrastructure, telecom infrastructure, road infrastructure, and a whole lot of energy infrastructure. Why these are possible challenges, why these are problems, but they also provide opportunities. And the one nation that is positioning to partner with Africa in solving some of these problems is China. China has come into the continent, and China is positioning herself, and taking advantage of some of these challenges, to partner with Africa, in delivering cutting-edge solutions, to some of these challenges on the continent. So there are challenges. As we expect to see benefits and profits, there are challenges. And among these challenges are the lack of modern and efficient infrastructures, in Africa. The second point also too is that build a new policy. Being a new policy being implemented, there, as it starts, there are still unclear information about processes on how to tap into, the after policies. So this information problem, here and there may bring some pitches. It may also bring some delays as well too, but with the continued implementation of this policy, we hope that this challenge, in the next couple of in the short term, should be overcome, and the global community will be properly informed about the processes involved, in how to tap into the after opportunity, being presented by the African continent, and the last but not the least also too, is challenges arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Is a global pandemic. It is a global scourge, a global battle being fought by all nations of the world, by all continents of the world. Africa also too is not left out. So these challenges also too bring their own setbacks also too, economic setbacks also too, that could impinge and impact, on the implementation of the after policy. But as with the coming on board of vaccines, globally, we hope that, that's a solution is in sight, for challenges that might emanate by reason of the COVID-19 pandemic. And with this, I hope I've been able to run you through the future of after, the future of business in after. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oda. That was a great presentation, and I think you completed all the aspects of related to the African continental free trade area, such as the benefits, the opportunities, the future scenarios, as well as the challenges. So I think this definitely creates, a pathway to the women in trade, who are going to take their business globally, and be it the Africans or the friends of Africa. So thank you so much for joining us today in this insightful session. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is ours, sir. Thank you. All the best to you.